Hello everyone. Now in this lecture we will know about the next type of locking method, that one is a timestamp based. In a previous session we already know about the locking method, that one is a two-phase locking protocol. Now in this lecture we will know about timestamp based locking process. Now the explanation about the timestamp based. The most commonly used concurrency control or the concurrency protocol is a timestamp based protocol. This protocol uses either the system time or the logical counter as an timestamp, right? If we already means when the transaction T1 started, then the timestamp, it may be the time of a system time, that one is at 10 AM, right? And it may be the logical counter, it may be that one is a logical counter for timestamp is 1, or it may be then second transaction, that one is 2 or 3 and 4, like that, and it maintains a timestamping or it uses as a timestamp at the time of execution of the schedule. Then log based protocol manage the order between the conflicting pair. Log based protocol means the previous method. Log based protocol manage the order between the conflicting pair among the transaction at the time of execution. It's a check the manage the conflict pair between the transaction at the time of execution, whereas a timestamp based protocol start working as soon as transaction is created. Means in a locking in a log based protocol, it's a work at the time of when the transaction execute, T1 execute, then it verifies under the log based protocol. But under the timestamp based, whenever the particular transaction is started, then the particular timestamp based protocol work on that transaction with the timestamp, with a particular time. That is the basic difference. Now the every transaction has a timestamp associated with it, and the ordering is determined by the age of the transaction. We will take a simple example of the time with the timestamp with the time T1 have the time of 02, T2 have the time of 04, right? That one is the timestamping. Now a transaction created, that one is simply the created a 02 clock time would be the older than, then we can say that it's older than this transaction. Okay. Now whenever the particular give the authority to execute the things, this is have the priority as compared to this one. Now every data item gives the latest read write timestamp. Then again one more concept, if T1 or it may be it read the A value, or it may be the particular, consider the data item is A. Now data item have a two timestamping value, that is last read timestamp, that it would be the 3 by T1, or it may be whatever the timestamp, that A have the timestamp read timestamp. We can say that a read timestamp of A, right? It's again have a value something, then again write timestamp of A. What will be the this value is, that one is the last updated value or timestamp or the time of the A value. This is again the value of a data, timestamp value of a read write of a data, and timestamp value of the transaction when the transaction started. That is simply the process or the concept under the timestamp based. Now the unique identifier created by DBMS that indicates a relative starting time of the transaction, that one is simply the type of timestamp, that one is system lock or the logical counter. Then system lock, that one is at the time of a transaction start, or the logical counter when new transaction start, then it increment by 1. That is simply the process. Now we will start with the timestamp ordering protocol. Under the timestamp based, This is the actual concept, but we need to implement it. That's why the particular protocol comes. That's the timestamp ordering protocol, which one is decide the order of execution of a transactions. Now the timestamp, that one is a timestamp ordering protocol, ensures the serializability among the transaction in their conflicting read-write operation. This protocol, which one is take care about the transaction serializability among the transaction for their conflict read-write operation. It take care about the this conflict of a read-write operation. Now responsibility of protocol system that the conflicting pair of a task should be executed according to the timestamp value of the transaction for the maintaining the consistency of a database. Now the time these are the some terms we need to as a short form of that terms. Timestamp of a transaction Ti is denoted. For example, that is simply the new timestamp. What exact this is? Timestamp of transaction I means what? This is somewhat the some time like a 03. Then what is the T? It may be Ti is the T1 or the T2 or whatever that. This Ts means the timestamp of a transaction. Now read timestamp of a data item X is denoted with the R timestamp X, means this is the read last read time of the X data item, or we can say that RTS, read timestamp of X, right? Same thing with the write timestamp of the X, means so both the data item have read write timestamp. When the particular data item read lastly, when the particular data item update or lastly, that time which is comes under this variable. Now the concept timestamp ordering protocol work as following. The particular timestamp protocol is work when we want to read the X, then it comes with some situation, and when we want to write X, then it comes with some situation. This situation, which one is validated by the timestamp ordering protocol to maintain the serializability, right? Now the if transaction Ti issues a read X operation, means transaction T1 want read a value. Now what will be the situation and what will be the behavior of the process? That is the timestamp of a Ti is less than of a write timestamp of the particular data, means we want to read the A, right? Then it checks the timestamp of a transaction is less than of a write timestamp of the value of A. This is the true, then operation is rejected. It's not allowed for this situation. Okay. Now this one is simply a situation. That one is if transaction time is less than write timestamp of the particular data value, then the particular transaction cannot read the value of that data item. Operation is rejected. Why this is needed? Because of this process, it may be later or it may be it create the inconsistency in a database. Now the second if this all the related to the if transaction want to read the data item, then this condition need to verify. This protocol verifies this condition and allowed the particular transaction or not allowed to a particular transaction. If a transaction time is greater than or equal to a timestamp of a data item, then operation is executed. If the transaction time is more than the write timestamp of a data item, then it is allowed. Now all data item timestamps updated. After this process, again the timestamp of a read or write of a data item is updated with a new value. This is simply the for at the time of transaction want to read the data item X. Now the transaction want to write the data item on X, then what will be the situation? Then the timestamp of a transaction is less than a read timestamp of a data item then again operation is rejected. Then timestamp is less than write operation of the data item, write timestamp of operation of data item, then operation is rejected and the ti is rolled back with this situation, right? With this situation it roll back. Otherwise, if it is a timestamp of both situation is greater than the read and write timestamp of data item, then operation is allowed, then operation is executed. With this situation, the particular timestamp based protocol, or it may be a timestamp ordering protocol, maintain the serializability among the transactions, right? That one is simply the use of timestamp protocol or the timestamp ordering protocol. Now in detail we take the different type of example with two files. That one is the timestamp ordering protocol file 1 and file 2. Now here this one is simple example. That one is a timestamp ti request for read, means this transaction it's a sender want to read the value of a. Now what will be the situation? That one is simply we need to verify this situation. Now if timestamp transaction timestamp is a 5, then read of the a is again considering as a 5, or we can directly apply the formula or verify the formula. Is a timestamp of a transaction is a 5, which is again a write timestamp of on a value of a data item a is a 10, then it rejected and the ti is rolled back. It again ti enter into the system with a new timestamp, so it can be a work. Means if this condition is false, true, then it rejected. If it is false, then it allowed. When it is true, when the timestamp of a transaction is greater than the write timestamp of a data value, right? This one is also, or this is the actual that condition, and which one is operation is executed. Now this is simply the example of that. Now simple the particular next example, that one is if transaction timestamp is greater than the write timestamp of the data item, then it allowed. That one is this is the scenario. If the timestamp of a transaction is a 10 and write timestamp of a data item is a 5, then that one is operation is allowed, right? If the transaction timestamp is equal to write timestamp of a data item, then if it is equal, then it is also allowed, right? This is simply the example of the rule of if transaction ti issues a read operation on the data item, then it validate these things, and it false, then it rejected. If it is correct, then it is allowed, right? Now the next example, that one is for the write when the particular data item or it may be when the transaction want to write on a particular data item, then it is simply the if transaction time is less than a read timestamp of a data item, then it is rejected and it particular transaction is rolled back with a new timestamp. Then same thing, if the ts is less than with a write timestamp for data item, it's again the reject and roll back the transaction. If the transaction time is greater than both the read write timestamp of a data item, then this situation is allowed to execute the transaction. Okay, then this is simply the example of the both situation for the at the time of read the data item and at the time of write the data item. Then why this situation, this conditions is important? Because of if we allow with the help of this situation, then it may be it generates the inconsistency in a database, or it may be a dirty value, or it may be a read write problem, or the write write conflict. If we not allowed this situation, then it's maintain the database consistency. That one is simply the that's why we apply this rule with the help of timestamping ordering protocol, and which one is maintain the serializability of the particular transaction. This is simply the way to maintain the database consistent, and it end with the timestamp based protocol under the locking method. Thank you.